Tales of Mithrym.
Scales of Justice, read by Ennatos. Part 11. Motive. The sun cast long shadows down from the bars of the window of the cell as Ducky came to. He winced at the pain, but chuckled to himself. No one had ever taken him without a fight, and he was sure that at least 3 wardens had worse headaches than him at the moment. He stood up and looked around. The cell he was in was made of iron railings, fixed into heavy stone walls. The room itself was enormous, divided up into barred cubicles. Every one of them seemed to be filled. His own had a dozen or so people besides himself. "Well," he said with a stretch, and looking at the nearest inmate to him, "I've woken up in worse places, to be sure." The man did not look interested in conversation. "Name's Ducky. What are you in for?" He turned to look at Ducky. "I am Atom. I am a criminal." His voice sounded timid and broken. "Oh, I see." Ducky's own voice dropped somewhat as the smile drained from his face. "I thought you looked familiar." "We are all criminals here," Montu continued. "We are the property of Kanath. We are to work the mines." Just then, the large door to the cell chamber opened, and in walked 2 wardens. Unlike those that Ducky had seen most days, these were not wearing armor, but rather leather jerkins under their tabards. "The criminals will rise," one of the wardens shouted, banging a heavy truncheon on the bars. The prisoners all stood up. Ducky, deliberately and with some dramatic flair, sat down. He placed his hands behind his head and whistled. "The criminals will rise," the warden bawled again. Ducky pretended not to hear. "Cell 6!" the warden shouted. The other walked over and unlocked the door of the railings by Ducky. They walked in and stood before him. "Stand!" Ducky stretched and stood up. There was a mild gasp from some nearby as he straightened up, a clear foot taller than the jailer. "What is your name, criminal?" Ducky made an elaborate bow, bringing his head down low in front of the wardens. "Ducky Repton, your honor," he said with a flourish. The truncheon came down hard on his head, and he fell prone. "You are a criminal," the warden barked. "You are the property of Kanath, and you will learn obedience. Get him up." Several of the other prisoners moved over and helped Ducky to stand. His head was spinning, but he managed it, making eye contact with the wardens and smiling. They snarled at him, then stepped out of the cell. The spring in the lock clicked back into place with a snap. "Listen up," the warden called. "Double shifts are called for. You will begin work in 1 hour. Those who refuse will be hanged." They left, slamming the large doors behind them. "More? Now?" Gasps erupted around Ducky. "We will die if we have to go back down there now." Groans and quiet shouts around the room echoed this sentiment. "We will die if we don't," came another voice. "Is this the end of us?" Ducky spat blood then, putting a hand to his head. He straightened up and stretched again. "I don't know about you folks, but I can't say as I'm enjoying this place. I'll tell you what, I'll give you another choice if you like." He walked over to the bars. Something metallic glinted in the dim torchlight as he raised his hand and, passing it through the bars, began to work the lock. "You can go with and die." The door clicked open. "You can stay here and die." The door swung open. "Or you can come with me." Elsewhere, across the city, in a yard, Elvin and Derville looked up. You can talk? Elvin chided himself over such an obvious question. The beast loomed over him and Derville. Somehow he was sure that, if it could, it would have been smiling. He and Derville exchanged looks as they reached down and removed their ring. They felt the world shrink as they stopped perceiving one another's vision. The dragon growled in a way that almost felt like laughter.
I do not need your childish toys.
The words sounded inside Elvin and Derville's minds. They each drew back in surprise. But how are you? Derville started. She and Elvin stared in awe at the creature.
My brothers and sisters harnessed magic long before your ancestors could even speak.
The voice sounded fiery and fierce in their heads. It was scornful and deriding. Elvin and Derville looked to one another again. Then Elvin turned and faced the dragon. How old are you? He asked.
I am young,
the dragon bellowed.
I am strong.
Elvin began to sidestep slowly. He kept his eyes fixed on the dragon's own. Derville began to move the other way. You are a child? Elvin asked.
I am grown. I am the youngest of an ancient race. The Hammers, the Mountain Makers. I burn with the fire of my fathers and my mothers.
Elvin began to move backwards. In a flash, though, one great leg of the beast rose, and he found himself knocked hard to the ground as talons clicked against the paving either side of his head.
I am smarter than you, child of Een. Tell your friend to stand before me, too.
Derville! Elvin called. She ran round, lowering her bow. What do you want, then? Derville shouted up to it. The dragon growled a deep laugh again.
You humans make such good sport. To watch you suffer.
It pressed its enormous foot hard down into Elvin's chest. He gasped and gaped for air.
To watch you tear each other apart. You are the toys of a false creator. You are the playthings of an idle hour.
It brought its head down close to Elvin. Flashes of green sparked in its jaw.
Look upon me, child of Een. I am the hammer. I am your demise.
Elvin struggled under the weight, but with a great effort began to talk. What is your end game? What do you want? To kill us? You could have done that by now. Again, the dragon growled a menacing chuckle.
We will, child of Een. We will kill you all. In our time. And in our fashion. When you turn on yourselves, when you kill each other, when the city falls to chaos and disorder, we will feed at the trough. We will devour those that rode us. Then we will come for all the others.
At this, Derville dropped her bow hard onto the ground. The dragon's head darted up to look at her as she spun round, picking up the crossbar of a shattered bow of the warden and flinging it hard at the beast's head. It bounced off, landing away to the side. The dragon roared with laughter.
Fool! Did you think that would stop me?
No, said Elvin with a smile. But this might... In his hand he held the fallen quarrel. Its tip glinted in the sun as he swung it hard at the dragon's leg. It arced down and then shattered. With another of its legs, the dragon quickly pinned Derville too.
You are proud and you are foolish, children of Een, and I will end you now.
Just then, sounds erupted from the street nearby. They could make out the sounds of the approaching wardens. The dragon reared up. It made no audible sound, but in their minds they could feel its purring anger. Elvin's muscles ached, but he knew an opportunity when he saw it. He sprang to his feet, and taking Derville's hand too, they darted away.
I will come for you.
They heard the voice as they ran.
Remember that.
They did not stop, though, scrambling up the ladder to the rooftop and then away. Into the square stepped the captain, the sergeant, and a handful of other wardens. They took in the scene, their fallen comrade, groaning as she started to come to, the dragon sitting obediently by its handler.
You may add evading the watch and attacking an officer of the law to their crime, Sergeant,
the captain said, removing his helmet and wiping his brow.
Yes, sir.
The sergeant took out a notebook and scratched at it with some charcoal.
It's a shame. They were good deputies. They could have had a better end than this.
Sir? The sergeant looked puzzled.
New orders, Amon, from the Patriarch. Evasion of the law is now a capital offense. Kill them on sight.
There was a pause. It seemed to last an eternity.
Yes, sir.
The sergeant replaced the notebook and began issuing orders to the wardens. Elsewhere on the rooftops, Elvin and Derville made their way across the city.
We have to do something,
Elvin said. Derville stopped and looked at him.
I know, but what?
Tales of Mithrym are written by Jimmy Clephane. Mithrym is a fantasy world built for the Dungeon Room role-playing game system. To find out more about the world of Mithrym, or to try out the game, go to www.mithrym.com.